Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel outside the target demographic. As a bonus part 4 for the oil change series I have going, we are going to tackle rotating the tires. Let's get started. So the reason we do tire rotations is largely to keep my Costco tire warranty valid. We got these tires purchased and installed at Costco, and part of their warranty replacement plan is to prove that you are rotating the tires on a regularly scheduled basis. The reason, besides having a Costco membership, for that is the majority of the weight of your vehicle is going to be at the front twice. Now, we say twice because we have the engine and the transmission and all the heavy bits at the front of the vehicle. So when it is not dynamically loaded, the majority of the weight is going to be located on the front tires. The second majority of the weight for your car is going to be dynamic loading. So when you apply your brakes, the majority of the weight of your car is going to shift onto your front wheels, and that's going to make the static weight even heavier by dynamically loading and shifting the center of balance more forward towards the front of your car. So all that to say, your front tires are going to be having the majority of the brunt put on them. They're going to have more weight more often under heavier loads and more dynamic shifting. So to more evenly get some wear patterns going, we're going to swap the front to the rear. Now, Google has made a handy and very simple to read schematic for which tires go where and how to rotate them and when to rotate them and stuff like that. It is far easier for me because my tires are the Michelin Cross Climate 2s, and you can see that they are a unidirectional tire. So I cannot take this tire and put it on the right side of my car because the tire will be rotating in the wrong direction based on the tread pattern, and it will actively diminish the tire tread, and that is not something we want. So for my purposes with directional tires, all I need to do is swap out my front for my rear to the front, and do it on the other side as well. As we have these tires taken off, we're going to go ahead and take a look at what's going on underneath. If anything's loose, we're going to go after it. If we can do some cleaning, we're going to do that as well. And we're also going to go after the spare tire, if only to make sure that it has the proper air. We just got out of winter, so we have some temperature changes. It's now 85 degrees next week. It's bullshit. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that the tire pressure is correct in that spare in case I ever need it. So let's go ahead and get started with that. For those of you who have been to my channel before, a lot of this should look familiar to you. We're going to need a jack stand, torque wrench, a 19mm socket. We have a wire brush to knock free some of the rust. I live in Ohio where the rust is, as you can tell by these tools. And a wheel chock, also sometimes used to build walls and stuff. I think they call it a brick. And what we're going to do is we're going to chalk the side of the car that we are not working on. We're currently on the driver's side, so we'll be chalking the passenger side rear wheel. Make sure the car is not going to go anywhere. And like I said, we'll just jack it up. We'll swap out the tires. We'll check the tread, clear out any rocks, pebbles, stones, anything that's stuck in the tread. Make sure we don't see anything alarming on the tread wear, and swap them out. This is going to be pretty familiar to those of you who, again, have watched my channel. The trick with replacing a tire or removing a tire is before you jack it off the ground, go ahead and break free your lug nuts. The idea behind that is if this is up in the air, you're going to have the wheel rotating on the axle as you're trying to apply leverage to break those free. And especially if it's on a jack, you can move the car enough, if you're not careful, to cause you some unnecessary problems. So I haven't done anything besides chalk the rear wheel. Go ahead and hit our breaker bar. We're going to break all of these free, just a half rotation, something like that. We're not removing the lug nuts, we're breaking them free. And then we'll go ahead and jack it up into the air and pull the tire. The pattern should not matter, but on principle, let's go ahead and keep the star pattern going. Our tip for the video is, instead of trying to blow out your back and lift these out, if you put it where it's at about the 9 o'clock position versus the 3 o'clock, right? You can use your body weight and just stand on the breaker bar to break these guys free. Okay. Okay. So if I can just get those loose enough that I can essentially spin them by hand, then we should be in business. Next tip for the video is, instead of jacking up the side of the car, I just go after individual axles. I'm going to use just my hand, no bar here, to get this up quickly. I need speed, not torque. We're going to line that up on this part here. Okay, now I'm going to use the bar. Get that leverage. All I need is enough for that tire to be off the ground. So as soon as you see light under the treads, we are in business. All right. So the first tire is jacked. The lug nuts have been broken free, so much to the point that I should be able to just finger remove that out. Another trick is leave your bottom lug nut as the last one removed. The idea behind that is, due to the fact that the connection is here, but the weight of the tire is here, right? A little bit more recessed into the car. As I remove this guy, the whole rim is going to want to rotate and shift off. If I do it up here, I'm going to start getting that motion. I'm going to be putting undue leverage, some sideways twisting torquage on a lug nut, which is not something I want to do. So putting it at the bottom is going to be the least strain. Go ahead and you can see it's already fairly loose. We're going to go ahead and wiggle this tire back and forth as I remove that last one. And I'm also using my feet to hold the rim into place because I want to be in control of when the rim does. I guess it wasn't high enough. That wasn't as dramatic as I was hoping. But we don't want it to just fall off or wobble more than we want it to without us being in control of it. So putting your feet there, remove that last lug nut, move your feet out of the way, and pull your rim. As I said, we are in the rust belt, but we're in here. Let's go ahead and knock some rust off. As I am removing some rust, I'm constantly blowing as if I'm trying to blow out a birthday cake candle. I'm not huffing and puffing, just a slow breeze. And that's going to help keep the rust moving away from me instead of coming back towards me. Now, while we're in here, we can look at the rotors and see that they're in decent enough shape. Check out the brake pads and all. But just do an inspection. You're in here anyways. You're going to be spending the time. Might as well do some good while you're in here. for giggles, I have access to linseed oil, which I've been using for everything. I'm going to go ahead and, as a science experiment, I'm going to rub down some of the controls in here with that linseed oil. See how well it takes. I feel like I read online you can use it as a spray underliner for your vehicle. That's something I'm looking at trying to do maybe by the end of this year. So I'm going to use the linseed oil, use that as a baseline, and see if I like it to apply to the rest of the vehicle. So let me go ahead and grab that. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Honestly, not as bad as I thought it would be. Hello, baby girl. Alright, so the brake caliper is the most corroded part, and I believe that's also the newest part in here besides the rotor. So the rest of the car, it's a 2018. We're coming up on 6 years here. I'm hoping in Ohio, we are the Rust Belt. We also salt our roads during the winter because people don't know how to drive. So that adds up to a lot of corrosion damage to your car. Something you can't really avoid unless you use various protection films. I know there's better stuff out there. I imagine I'll be purchasing that better stuff, but we are here and it's not going to cost me anything but time. So linseed oil, this is the unboiled variety. The difference being the boiled linseed oil has not been boiled, but it will generate its own heat and make it polymerize much faster. So what it'll do is it goes on like an oil, and as it dries, it will essentially turn into a clear coat material. It'll essentially laminate whatever you're rubbing it onto. It's a great compound for wood and tools, hand tools, shovels, stuff like that. So I figure it may not be the cheapest approach, but I'm going to try coating as much as I can. I'll use this as a baseline reference between this and the other side of the car. You would think the left and right front would get equi rust and corrosion and all. So scrubbed off a little bit. Apply this where I can and establish a baseline with this video of before and after, but also over the course of these next couple months of 90-degree, 90% humidity for 90 days, weather we're going to be enduring here shortly. This should have enough time to polymerize. Maybe I'll wait until after the winter and compare the two sides, but I can figure that out at a later time. So I'm going to do a thin coat. Want to be a little generous. As an oil, it will soak and permeate around in between moving components and all. So we want that. I can only get so many places with direct contact. Nice. Certainly looks better. Restores a little bit of the original black. Okay. I have used this as a black trim restorer, and so far, after about 6 weeks of no joke, we've had, I believe, an 80-degree day. We've had snow. We've had probably, I think the app said about 5 inches of rain in that duration. So we've had all the things. And honestly, it's holding up pretty well on that black trim. Makes it look better. Again, as it polymerizes, it will act as a UV protectant and a oxidation protectant, which is why it turns gray in the first place. And as an oil, it rehydrates the plastic with the oils that it loses through the exposure to the elements, namely the sun. So I'm probably going to do a video on that. This linseed oil can be used for almost all the things, which is very nice. I'm gonna get up under there. I do have a glove on. While this is a chemical, because literally everything you see with your eyes is a chemical, it is 100% boiled or condensed down linseed oil, so it's completely organic. I imagine you could drink this stuff. I haven't tried and I wouldn't recommend, but the glove is more of a formality, really. As unboiled linseed oil, this will take weeks to cure versus, you know what, we're here, versus boiled linseed oil, which will take days to cure. So this is going to stay wetter longer and probably attract more dirt. But to me, the fact that it doesn't polymerize quickly means it will retain its oil principle longer, its fluid form longer, and that will allow it to drip and ebb around. Don't get it on your rotor. And get into the nooks and crannies, which is what we want. I'm gonna get it about 80% where I want it to be. So vibrations and bumps and shocks and all will help move it around and mechanically work it into where I cannot get it. Trying to avoid hoses. I don't know that it would do anything to them, but I don't really care to find out. So we're just gonna hit what can be hit. We are on a jack, not a jack stand. Jacks are for lifting. They're not the most secure of setups. So I don't have my shoulder up in here. I am not under the wheel well. I recommend you do the same if you're doing just the high CC. If you're doing just the basic tire rotation, there would be no reason for you to be in here, but be aware that it is not the most stable brace and the car can shift. And if it shifts, it can drop. And if it drops, don't be under it. That's about as good as we're going to get, which is much better than it was. So let me deglove and we'll move on to the rear wheel. We're now at the rear of the car. The jack is set up, but it is not jacked. We're going to break these guys free. Again, I'd rather stand on it, slowly lowering my body weight, than try to lift it, in which case you're more likely to try slamming or spiking it, trying to break it free. That's not what we want, especially with the front of the car on the jack stand as it is. We want to be as uniform in our torquage as we can be. So loose there, loose, 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 loose. Okay, at this point, let's jack it up. With Subarus, if I'm working on the wheel, I will usually put the jack directly on the wishbone, which will allow me to more raise the tire off the ground instead of lifting the car enough to get the tire off of the ground. The difference being we're already starting at 8.6 inches of ground clearance. The jack only goes so high. So instead of lifting the whole car to bring the under spring tension wheel up with it, I just raise the wheel. So, hi kiddos. Please do not touch anything you see. I did take the wheel off. That is exactly what I did. It is so big. It is so big. I see this one. How many did I pull?
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3 are what I need to pull. How did you get dirt on your face? Did you do it quickly? No. Did you do it slowly?
You will do it slowly.
So again, this last one's going to give you the most resistance. The wheel is trying to pivot.
Move.
No, thank you, boy. Back up, please. One.
It's going to move.
It's going to move. That is exactly what it's going to do. So, hold this last one. Hold it with our feet. And this one should be a little more dramatic. Nope. There we go. So it can pivot out like that. That's something you want to do while controlled. If it clears these top two, it will fall to the ground, possibly do some damage, scuff some paint, what have you. Okay, so again, I have the jack going directly under the wishbone assembly, so I'm lifting the axle up instead of the entirety of the car. That said, the entire left side of this car is supported by a jack stand and a jack, so you want to be very careful with what you're doing. Again, I'm going to scrub this guy down, keep my left side as my reference for the linseed oil. This isn't typically what you'll be doing with replacing the tires, but I'm in here, so that's what I'm doing. All right, so you can see some shimmery shiny, and basically all the surface area I could get to, I went ahead and treated with the linseed oil. So at this point, we're gonna go ahead and go to the front wheel. We're gonna check the tread, make sure everything's on the up and up, and put it back here. Okay, so looking for any nails being picked up or anything like that, uneven wear patterns. Moving the rocks isn't necessary, but it will make for a quieter ride. Okay, so that one seems all right. We're gonna go ahead and check the other one as well, and then swap the wheels around, put them back on. At this point, we're just going to reverse the order. If you have a one-way directional tire, as I do, go ahead and double check that it's turning in the right direction before you mount it. The idea here is I have 4 points of contact, 1, 2, 3, 4, so I can level off the rim as I go. Okay, so that is in place. We're going to do the opposite. Start with your bottommost lug nut. Now the wheel's going to stay in place, and we can start the other 4. All right, so we started by getting them started by hand. The last thing you want to do is get a torque gun or impact wrench or something and just start spinning these into place. That's a great way to strip out either the lug nut or more likely the stud there, and that is a pain to replace. Ask me how I know. So if we started by hand, and then just by hand tightening with the socket, you may have to wiggle the tire back and forth. We got them hand tight. Now remember, the car is completely off its tires on the left side. So the last thing I want to do is start wrenching on this guy with the car up in the air. So we're going to remove the jack, put this guy back down on the ground. Everything should be about 90% of the way in. I'm going to go ahead and get the torque wrench, set it to 92 foot-pounds, and snug these into place twice. Okay, jack is removed. We are on tighten. Okay, so I'm going to get them snugged. Tightening in a star pattern, however that works out. You don't want to go around the clock. So now I'm going to listen for a click. There's my 92, 92, 92, 92, 92, and we're going to do it a second time. It is better, since you have the socket, you have the tools, you're literally standing right here. It's better to torque them twice than to forget to do it once and start straining the rest of your lug nuts and studs and have a wheel fall off. So we did it twice. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, and we will switch over to the right side of the car. All right, second verse, same as the first. I'm going to make sure our rotation is in the same direction, which it would have to be. I already accounted for that by doing one side of the car at the same time. Get that into place. Our first lug nut in place. Through generous wobbling of the tire, we're gonna get it as hand tightened as we can. Hello, Spider. You might not want to stay there for too long. I'm going to get that close, but not fully hand tightened. That's going to allow the whole rim to wobble around enough to give me a better... Hi, Cece. Did you break it? Let me see. Here you go, sweetheart. Go that way. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So we're good there. Let's take it off the jack stand and the jack itself, lower it to the ground, and torque it. Our jack is removed, so let's go ahead, get these snug. And get these torqued. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, that concludes this side. We're going to go ahead and repeat all the same steps on the other side, minus the linseed oil, and then we'll be checking our spare tire. Stop, stop. So that's it for the tire rotation. The last thing we have is to check the air pressure in the spare. Gen 4 Subaru Forester. It is a donut, not a full-size spare tire, unfortunately. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out, and we'll confirm the tire pressure, make sure the tread looks good. And that's why we check. Keep it at 60 PSI. It's reading at 50, so I'm almost 20% low. Gonna go ahead and add some air to it, put it back away. Much better. So go ahead and knock loose your cobwebs and add a pair of jumper cables. If you're gonna have a bad day, at least prepare for it. At this stage, we only have 3 things left to do. 1, remove any wheel chocks you may have been using. Do a couple push-ups, look underneath the car, make sure nothing's dangling, nothing's left behind. Next thing we're going to want to do is log your tire rotation in your maintenance log. And the third thing is keep the torque wrench and the socket with you in your car. The next time you go for a drive to work or wherever, go ahead and walk around the car, retighten all the lug nuts, and on your way back home, once you get home, go ahead and retighten them. The vibrations and high speeds and weight of the vehicle may shift some of the lug nuts around. So go ahead and make sure everything's torqued up as it should be, and enjoy the fact that you've done your very own tire rotation. This is outside the target demographic. As always, I appreciate you guys' time. Any questions, comments, concerns you have, go ahead and leave them in the comments section below, and I will catch you guys in the next video.